Hey, it's the Chief bonding with board games and RPGs. So, this is the live wrap up show for season one of the Evil Twilight 2000. 35 pure episodes with a couple little specials thrown in between in there. So, I'm going to wait before I get into some of the topics to let some folks come in. Some folks will use a timer so it kicks off and everybody gets the notification. And I probably should be doing that as well. But all right, never fear. Hello. Let me type that in there. Boom. Let me bring that up on screen. Thank you for all your comments. Never fear. That was perfect. So, one thing we are going to talk about is I've been playing Twilight 2000 since the 80s. I've got the original box here. Hidden underneath here is the version 2, which you can't see with the thing up here. And I'll show that a little bit better. I never did do the 3rd edition, and then 4th edition from Free League. Of course, I've gone all hog wild on. It was very interesting because I have very fond memories. For whatever reason, as a kid, I played a little bit of D&D, but I never was quite into the fantasy side. I was always into the military stuff and apocalyptic. So when this came along, Twilight 2000, me and a group, another guy had it, and he ran it. And I remember, the thing I remember most was we had a 113, and we were always having to focus on getting more fuel. We were always dead in the water somewhere. So let's see, we got boom, boom. All right. And let's see. All right, some folks are coming in. So I'll also be talking about the 48 Laws of Power, which this worked great. When I decided I was going to do an evil Twilight 2000, I thought, let's do something. It's already a dark setting, I know, but let's flip it around and make this anti-hero that we have to play, or that I have to play, and to see what happens to him. And I was curious because using the Mythic emulator rules, which worked out perfectly, and I'll talk more about that as well. I didn't know where the story was going to go. I would have ideas in game, or when the gold idea came in, I thought that's perfect. Because what would give Krieg some leverage? He's got to have leverage, and that knowledge, that information on, hey, I know where a bunch of gold is, way behind Russian lines, Warsaw. And if you join with me, we're going to get it. Let me take some questions here while we're waiting on some more folks to show up. So never fear. I haven't tried military stuff. Yeah, I would say it's either in your wheelhouse or it's not. And I like really fantasy as well, but I definitely I was a medic in the Army. I was playing this. I wasn't yet. I was still a kid. But so I know some military jargon, tech, understanding, and then the police side, I understand it's very paramilitary. So I knew I would be able to, as a solo, to kind of feel my way factually through the mythic information I got. So that was part of the idea. And I was quite excited. I kind of backed it just out of nostalgia. And my son, with all these board games here, he prefers role playing. But I had Fate Core, and we did some Fate stuff and had a great time. And I thought, you know what? Maybe I'll play this with him. Now, he hasn't actually gotten into this, but it was perfect for what I did with Dan Pancaldi and Ron Nicholson. If you saw, I did we met live, although Ron's in Ohio, or was in Colorado Springs, Dan's in Canada. And we were playing the game live, and that worked great too. But although we had a schedule problem there, so we had to pause that. Most of what I've done in relation to RPGs is fantasy. Yeah, very cool. I've done Forbidden Lands. I had a buddy of mine, Don Story, who's been RPGing since he was a kid nonstop. He came over and ran a Forbidden Lands couple couple sessions. It was awesome. So, and I've got that on order from Free League as well. So let's see what else we got here. I want to try more of it though. I got Ghost Ops for that reason, but I didn't play it much. Very cool. I've even got some old Top Secret from who was doing that? TSR, I think, the old spy modules and stuff. So I could see myself maybe even getting into that. Although I'll need to be way better because those modules all know the information. But I think I did pretty good in this. You guys will let me know about the characters not having perfect information, even if I did. I tried to, if they were in the dark, they were in the dark. So live is in person. Oh, kind of. So I did a live StreamYard show like this, but I kept it private so I could then upload it to my computer, edit out bathroom breaks, food, or just general chit chat, and make it into a show that I released. But it still, I had to do very little editing. It worked really, really well. Trying to think, I might even been able to put some of them up with no editing. I can't remember. I know we didn't film it live like this, but it was using this exact same system. And boy, it was like they were in the room. I loved it. I plan on doing more of it. I did a lot of I used cards. That's where I was using the playing cards more for instead of dice, because it was visual and everybody saw it at the same time, including them. And I remember Dan, I'm getting ready. He's like, wait, because he's still trying. And then boom, an ace came up and he's like, you're killing me, Chief. So we want the chit chat. Let's see. Have you thought, hold on, we'll come to that in a second, I guess. Have you thought of which characters to follow in season 2 for Twilight 2000? Yes. I'm going to take a break from it. I don't have it over here. I've got Into the Odd. I'll be doing some more with Viking and the Twins. I love that. It's the first OSR I ever played, and it just works so well. And it's such a bastion land as Chris McDowell's the designer of that, or writer of the book. And I can't wait to get into that. And Any, which is a little zine that just came out on Kickstarter via Charlie Ward. I'll be doing some of that as well. But when I go back to Twilight 2000, which I will, I'm going to go in with the orphans. And I know there's some comments coming through on how I can do that. I think I'll pick up almost right where they're at now. And we'll step away from Krieg. I'd like to come back to Krieg at some point and see how the gold mission goes. I think that would be cool. I've pre-ordered the city or urban ops, which is the next module for Twilight 2000. That would have come in handy here, although I think using Google Maps worked out great. I loved it. And then I'm doing more Theater of the Mind. I actually I'm a huge tactical board game, war game player. And this system for that leaves me kind of and I liked it more Theater of the Mind. So let's see what we want the chit chat. Tell me more, McKenna. By chit chat, what do you mean? When I was with Dan, most of that's it, back and forth. I'm talking more about like when we're first logging in and stuff, and maybe folks want that as well. So, but I could probably, I think I was talking to him saying, guys, I'm having to do very little editing. We could probably throw this up live and do it. And lives are so easy because there is no editing. But I think what would happen on occasion is just for YouTube, I try to keep some of the cursing down. And so sometimes I might have to remind Pancaldi, hello, watch some of the language. I can't remember exactly. Could have been me. It wasn't Ron. Ron doesn't drop them bombs, baby. He doesn't drop them bombs. If you want freeform system, why not try GURPS or Fate? Yeah, I've got Fate. I've played a lot of Fate. That's what my boy loves. GURPS, I think, is a little too crunchy for me, to be honest with you. I was looking at Trevor, come on. I'm forgetting Me, Myself, and Die. And he did that little the Sage's Library. I love his voice and his acting. And after seeing that, I thought, I don't know if I'm into GURPS, but we'll see. I won't rule it out. I'm really getting into these OSRs, though. I've ordered tons and tons. I've got them all in. Black Hand, Maze Rats, Mouse Ritter. What does Any do differently? So Any is almost more like a Fate system, but think super simple. The main thing with Any is that your dice pool is kind of your health. So a non-specialized character will have a 20-sided, 12-sided, 10, 8, 6, 4. That's it. And when you go for a challenge, which there's not, you don't have too many of them, but when you are doing a challenge, you're rolling one of your die, and to have a success, you just have to get a 4. So you could roll your 20 and your odds of getting a 4 or better, great. But you could roll a 1, 2, or 3 and fail even on a 20. And then after that roll, that die is spent, and you will need to take a long rest to get it back. Short rest will get you back the lowest die in your dice pool that's gone. So depending on how it goes, so there's ways to play with it. And then if you do really, really well, so a perfect 20, there's a whole other chart you roll on in the anything that gives you something special. But if you roll a 10, that means you did it very, very well, or 18 extremely well. And then you're going to kind of like fate. What does that mean when you did that well? And I like that. We're going to try that. I've had an idea. So it's a Trevor Duvall. Thank you. It's more of a system that is simplified with the dice going away, or if you take damage, you lose a die. So you have to, and eventually you're knocked out or passed out. If you have no dice in your pool and you haven't rested, you're out. And I've got a setting I'm going to try with that, a made up setting, which if you're interested, I'll talk about that in a second. So into the odd, I'll go back to Viking and the Twins, this anything. And Charlie Ward sent me a couple Innies zines to do giveaways as well. Yes, so Trevor. So let me circle back real quick now that we got some more folks in, and I'll talk about Twilight 2000 and the campaign. So the very first thing that worked really, really well was I thought, how am I going to run a sociopath? I mean, okay, he's going to be brutal and blah, blah, blah. But I needed to climb inside his head, and 48 Laws of Power did it perfectly. This worked so great. So I basically I would do a random selection from Siri, give me a number between 1 and 48, and then that would lead for 3 episodes, which I try to film 3 at a time, and that would be the guiding principle. So I knew, okay, I have to bend toward that guiding principle. So for example, if I can read it with the light all on me, Law 30 is make your accomplishments seem effortless. And then there's a little explanation on how you would do that, or plan all the way to the end. So some of these didn't even come up, but it led to that's how the orphans, instead of them getting killed or anything, Krieg was on a be generous, show a generous side. And so he let them just come in, and it led to the orphans. Can't get this to stand up again. So that worked great. Now, while we're on the orphans, that was such a happy accident, which is why I love this whole role-playing thing, solo role-playing, because that was a random card flip from the Twilight 2000 4th edition deck. And it just so happened he was generous to them. And then I was getting comments like, hey, I'm intrigued about these orphan brothers. I want to know more about them. And I thought, I didn't plan on focusing too much on them. And as those comments came in, I thought, okay. And then they just came to life. That whole coin thing, that's my favorite episode, quite honestly, is Pacheco on the roof, taking care of them, getting them lined out like a good sergeant would, and then handing that coin to Casimir. And I didn't even know, okay, challenge coin. I didn't even know what it was. And in editing, I thought, okay, let me show a picture. Then I thought, okay, which police department was he on before he was part of Krieg's Contractors? That's a good name. Instead of Pim Jim, Krieg's Contractors. And I found in New Hampshire. I had to look at his sheet. I couldn't even remember. Okay, he's a New Hampshire State Police SWAT guy. And then I do a web search, find that coin, and then found out I could buy the coin online for $25 and have it in-house. I was like, this is great. And then that coin for season 2 is going to be what Casimir and his brother, Alex, I know, I can't even remember. Now I just flubbed it. But that will be their guiding principle, which is like loyalty, courage, fast is slow, slow is smooth, all that stuff. So that is what I'll be doing for season 2. I'm going to take a break, do some of these odd little one-offs and maybe 4-offs or whatever. So, but that'll be season 2, which we'll talk about. So question, do the Vikings OSR in an episode manner? So Viking is just an individual dude. He's in Bastionland, which is like this haunted horror kind of place. in an unknown time, and he wants to be a Viking. So that's why he's Vike. And the twins are his sidekicks, which are a couple little people. Easier to watch that way instead of having to sit through 1+ hour video. Could miss some details. Yeah, okay, I could break it down and send me some kind of what you're thinking of in that manner as well. An episodic manner. Because yeah, I did that 1 hour one-off, but I could definitely chop them. I kind of just let that play. I didn't even know if I'd end up using that. I thought, let me see how this works, and it worked out great. Let's see what else we got from Never Fear. Other folks, you can throw in questions too, but I love Never Fear's questions here. The part where Krieg left the base, yeah, and the law behind from the book came out as being a clutch thing. Yeah, it was so weird. It was what was it, Law 16? I can't even remember, but it was just strike out on your own. And, the idea that, no, don't go outside the wire. I'm thinking Krieg's dead. I'm thinking he's not going to survive this. And then all the action was inside. So then I started thinking, oh, maybe he's just going to hide out. Maybe he'll even have to kill these marauders that are with him because he's just going to hunker down somewhere. And then that didn't happen at all. and all of a sudden he's contact shooting and evil and still can't shoot, and then culminating into that action where he can shoot. Everybody does great, and they end up saving the day. It becomes mythical, yet he's still evil as all get out. Yeah, that worked great. Everything was flowing beautifully. The base didn't fall because of that. Right. Yeah. I think had they not left, I think that last rush from the vehicle, the IED-borne vehicle, would have come in and hit the headquarters, blown it sky high. And then I think the technicals rolling in would have been rocking and rolling, and I think it would have been over. And, I think that would have been it. I even flub a rule in there, which I didn't notice until I was editing, that when they were shooting at these folks running in, that every hit was going to take out 5, I think is what I said, just to show that this random wave attack wasn't working. I didn't do that as I was working it out, and it became touch and go a little bit there. So yeah, that worked out really good. Again, it was an accident, total mistake on my part. And you're flowing, and it just zipped out, and it made everything really tight and tense for me as well. Like a series. Yeah, I got you. So more like how I did Twilight 2000 was every once in a while they ran over, and I didn't want to chop them. If it's in the flow, I didn't want an artificial chop, but I can definitely keep her at like 30 minutes or 28 minutes. My camera, actually, when I'm filming my fix shows, does limit me to 30-minute run. Every once in a while, you'll see me grab or turn. That's my phone alarm triggering off at 29 minutes because I didn't do that once, and I think I went over about 3 minutes, and I'd lost some of the recording. So I was like, got to have my timer so I know when my camera's going to pause. For whatever reason, it records for 30 minutes, even though I have a huge card that could handle more than that. Okay, got it. Yep, similar to T2K. Yeah, that's perfect. I actually thought that might be a one-off. And so I'll do exactly that. I still don't know how many I'll do. And thanks for the input, because I thought I might do 4 1-hour episodes, but I'll break them into at least probably 28-minute episodes. We'll try that. Yeah, Bartek is still around. That was cool. I actually thought he was going to be in that base there. And when I rolled under Mythic, which we'll talk about in a little bit, he wasn't there. There was no leadership there. So, and ended up, he's still somewhere out there. I actually thought Lena's husband was going to make it and maybe push in to find her as well. And he was deceased. So, ouch. Yeah, it turned out I didn't miss much. It was one of those deals where I think I was, because sometimes I'll have something happen and I'm sitting here thinking, well, what does that mean logically? Well, I clipped that out. I mean, there's a couple occasions where I've done the Mythic roll and I'm like, what is that? And I'll be sitting there thinking about it. Sometimes it comes to me, I know exactly what that is immediately. And other times I'm like, And then I'll trim that because you don't need to sit there and see me thinking. And it was one of those times where I didn't miss much. And I literally think, I've been going long and I didn't set my timer. So I didn't miss anything There was no crucial die rolls at that time or anything. So, but the timer, I think every once in a while you'll even hear it, because if I'm saying something important and the timer goes, I can't quite cut the sound of the timer. But that's my phone just letting me know, hey, you're at your time limit, which again doesn't happen with lives. If that leads to interesting world building, that would be interesting. Which part? I guess I've lost the train. Which part leads to interesting world building? Into the odd. So that would be cool. We'll see what your response is there. Never fear. Let me look here. So, because we're at 20 minutes and I'm going to keep this at 45. So there will be future stuff coming. Oh, things I liked. The opening chopper confrontation scene with this was great. I really liked it. I don't know what everybody else did, but him, having an Apache roll up, and he's in that weird vehicle that didn't show up much more after the army guys got involved. And he has multiple different nationality flags, but he grabs the American one and goes out and kind of holds it up so he doesn't get lit up. And the idea that he was burying, like an emergency cache with some gold or coins or ammo and some MREs. And so I knew if anything ever got real bad, the goal would be flee, bail. And because combat, even though I didn't follow the rules to a T, which we can talk about in Twilight 2000, combat can be rough. So Krieg would flee. He was prepared to flee. Even when he got outside the compound, I thought, if the compound falls, this is perfect. He's got his marauders and he'll just never come back. So got it. Yeah, it could be some interesting world building there. Any co-op RPG would be cool. GM-less playthrough would be fun. Yeah. I'm actually got some guys coming over Sunday, and we're going to pick back up this Fate thing that we're doing, which is a whole mythical time travel thing, which gets a little mind bending now and then. But I'm going to be using more mythic with that as well. I would love to have a character, but I'm GMing it more. But we're not filming that or anything. Let's see. Let me stay on this. What was the next topic here? Meeting the U.S. troops. Again, none of that was planned. So that was a nice little happy accident as well. And then I really enjoyed, there's a lot of stuff I enjoyed here. The base creation, that whole, I knew, okay, I think I just glanced around and somehow ended up, however I ended up in Nisno, I don't remember. But then looking around Nisno, I was looking at a Google map and found, I'm like, what is that? And then I went, that's perfect. It looks walled. It's got woods. It's got these big buildings. And then I found out what it was, and it was kind of creepy. And I'm thinking, well, that's where Krieg would set up. And I can't remember where I found all that. It might have been as I was even getting set, because I didn't have any urban maps, and then finding that location and why he would be there and why it's a little bit more fortified than normal. That was his base of operations before everything started. And it's been so long, I can't remember if that was a happy accident as I was setting up his character, if that happened a couple episodes in. I can't remember. But having that map and that attack angle and the fortified position and all that, it was great. And dark. I mean, it literally is the closing scene is him going into an interrogation room where Lena's at. And I kept that to the imagination there, but not good. So I loved how the base and meeting the troops happened. The failed ambush of Bartek, kind of mid-season. They go out and do a night action, and it's just foobarred. They can't get set up, and they end up having to bail out of there and cause all kinds of problems. And that's when it starts to set, oh, they're making this, they're the problem. Bartek's the savior, but they're trying to pull off an ambush with their law rockets, and they couldn't even get set up. And it was chaotic, and it just problem after problem. And I thought, this is crazy. And so that was, it was frustrating trying to get them to pull it off, and then they couldn't. So they had to bail and come back to town, or come back to base. That that was a fun part for me because I didn't know how that was going to work either. Also about Lena's husband, is it possible he died in the fighting, or did Krieg have him killed? He got captured. So I did a roll that one of them survived or whatever, and then I think I did a fate check on who was it, or was it Lena's husband, and it was. And I actually thought that would leave a thread. And then I had a note to check that, and I forget, but the odds were he was going to be alive and maybe a problem. And then it was some kind of, no, he's dead. So it might have even been an extreme no. I can't remember. But Krieg didn't do it. When she was captured, the husband wasn't there. Yeah, right. They got her on her own. And then when the farm compound fell, they captured one person, and it ended up being Lena's husband. And I thought, oh, that's neat. Maybe he's going to, mount a rescue or something. And then, nope. It looks like the Nosians either killed him or he died of his wounds or whatever. So, yeah, that was something I thought, oh, that might be interesting. That's, again, the joy of this Mythic Emulator system. Ideas pop up, but I don't know if they're going to happen or not. I don't know what will trigger and what will just close down. So, what else do I got on notes here? Accidental orphans, yeah, that coming in. LeFew's movement to contact, I found that was fun and thematic, and I started to like LeFew. The idea that I didn't have a contractor flushed out, and I made one real quick, put him on that corner, and that's the corner that gets hit. So all of a sudden now I'm focusing on a second tier unknown NPC, and just like Pacheco became my favorite really NPC that popped in there. And then Sanchez's actions where he's getting pinged by that sniper and catching rounds and getting angry, and that fit his personality. But LeFew seemed quiet, and the way he gathered and then moved toward contact and then took a bunch of Nosians out and then pushed in and took back that area and then finally gets overrun when the buses showed up. I thought that Alamo type ending was cool, especially the way it worked out. All of a sudden I get all these hits from the militia and Nosians attacking and all that, marauders, and that's it. They go silent. So that finish was I liked. So on that, I talk about Pacheco in here and how again Pacheco just starts to come to the forefront more and more and more. And when he took over that uncle role and teaching of the orphans and all that, I thought, oh, I remember thinking about the time some comments came up that maybe they would be the season 2 would be Pacheco and the orphans. And I thought that's a real good idea. And I was thinking, okay. And then I thought, well, they got to make it. And then the way Pacheco goes down, I was like, oh, I mean, it was like affecting emotionally me. Yeah. I was like, oh my goodness, what? Let the dice fall where they will. And, it's Pacheco and just lights out. And I was like, wow. Let's see when it's captured. What's the United States doing in the T2K setting? I think they'll get to that. There were a couple modules. It has been received a couple nukes. Russia, same thing. Maybe more than a couple. I can't remember. But and everything's then some tacticals or nukes are used in Poland. So everything's down. Everything's like Dark Ages down. And when I was a kid, the whole campaign was trying to get back home and trying to get back to family. And there was some modules I didn't get where you were kind of doing that. I forget, there was one even based somewhere in the United States, but I never had that one. And I bet you that's going to come out. So it's not all happy in the United States either. And even getting back is a chore or impossibility maybe in and of itself. So the geopolitics of the world wasn't known in the playthrough. Right. Yep. We just dropped them in with Krieg. I actually got a little over my head. It's a note in here that if I was doing it right, especially with my lack of experience, this is my first like big solo run through. I would have just tried to keep the NPCs down a little bit. They just kind of went, and I mean, it all worked, but and helping the emulator sheet trackers that help you track scenes and characters and threads, that helped as well. But I felt like it started to run away from me a little bit. And then when I got back into the base being attacked, and I started to go around the clock, northeast, southwest, and then everything started to get tighter and tighter and tighter, and I finally found my feel with that. And then Krieg going outside the base and getting that. Now we only had 2 basic action scenes threads. We're either off the base or in the base, and then it really started to, I thought, work. So I got a little over my head with the U.S. troops and the base and the farm and all this stuff. And I was like, wow. And that's where it ran away from me a little bit. And I think if I was a little more seasoned, I would have had a little bit more control maybe on that. I don't know. I mean, it all worked great. So I'm not upset by any means. Yeah, I've got in here, I really love the coin that popped up. I already talked about that. Pacheco's death surprised me. Krieg leaving the base and rampaging. That was just worked well. The overall unknown, which is what I just covered, which is why as I was doing this, I'm like, oh, this isn't going to stop. I didn't care if I had 5 viewers for this. Viewership was way down at first because I'm mostly a board gaming channel. And I a lot of times there's not crossover. A lot of times there is. But this was so fun. I thought, yeah, I'm enjoying the heck out of this. I was concerned about some of the dark tone and the dark actions. And every once in a while I'd have someone send me a comment saying, I don't want to watch this because I don't want to watch a bad guy. I was like, yeah, which is why I kind of liked how Pacheco came along and the kids came along. But it was hard kind of watching Krieg do his thing. From start to finish, how much time passed in the game world? That's a good question. Felt to me like maybe more like a month and a half because the farm compound gets fortified by the farmers. Of course, they're busily working, what was there, 17, 18 of them, 16, I can't remember. They had some farm ground planted. So there was I was always figuring about a month and a half with some crazy downtime in between them really being able to make the city mad at them too. And so the night op and stuff and all that going on. And then Bartek finally deciding we're going to take them out and getting that power coalition. And that time skips would have been early on. So fortifying the base, I can see 3-4 weeks kind of moving by as they're getting the farmers in and everything's kind of just patrolling. And then it found its voice when Bartek showed up. So Nuno, only followed first episodes. Need to catch up eventually. It was interesting. Ever thought to write all of the series? Is that a thing? Write plays or RPGs? Yeah, I know a lot of people, they even have games that are called journaling. They'll journal the game, or it's more towards the writing and the creative writing aspect of it. I actually like writing and I like fictional settings. I played around. I had a story that just had to get out. Not that it ever got completed or anything. I actually like this format better. That stream of consciousness, that logic, the mythic emulator coming in, and I feel like it's preserved it in a way that's probably, I don't dislike writing. If I was retired, I could see maybe writing something out. But just with the family and the regular work and running a Scotch Test Dummies show, if you ever want to see whiskey reviews, that's Scotch Test Dummies in the background. The board games that are still coming in, all that. But yeah, there is journaling. And I like that aspect as well. But the creative aspect of these live or even these recorded shows is a lot of fun for me personally. Let's see, what are we at? 34 minutes. So we got about 5 minutes. Last thing I wanted to cover was, and I found this worked great. I used the rules, I used the dice, but I didn't stick hardcore to it when I needed to drift away. I found out while playing this that I definitely want to go more towards theater of the mind, less towards the crunch. I don't think the crunch of the combat rules work as well visually for a show. Now, it helped out here that once they found the US troops, there was a lot of ammo. They had ammo already because of how they were set up. They weren't low on ammo. They weren't really traveling or exploring. They had plenty of everything they needed. So then I could get a little bit loose on tracking ammo. But I didn't want to get into, oh, he's got to do a mag change. Where's that guy at? So I definitely was abstracting things more as we were going. These big battles, they would have taken forever. I don't think they would have been that entertaining. I'm sure to some, not to me. So I went with the abstraction to kind of get a feel for it. I thought that worked pretty well. And that's why I would kind of play loose with, you know what? I think they lost a couple die here. Now they're downgraded. Oh, hold on. What's this idea? We can get smoke grenades out there and stop some of the sniping. But I have an idea, didn't share it. Emulator had to let it happen. Then it did. And I found that worked really, really well. I think we'll look at questions. We got 4 minutes here. Some things. So I went all in with Tanya Pigeon's Mythic series. So I was using the emulator, but then I actually picked up, I think it was issue 16. This is not it. Because they had some stuff on how to run a city exploration, like a dungeon crawl, but with a city. And I thought I might use that. And then they started to do these bound versions of all the online electronic zines, and I've picked up 3 of these hardbacks, and then I went and got variations and all kind. I went and got the red cover, so I'm all in with Tanya Pigeon's Mythic series. It worked great. I'm going to be using it on everything I do, everywhere I go, just to show. Yes, I do have that as well. It's funny. I picked this up in the 90s, and it was more just to look at. I didn't do any of the playing at that time. I was fully into board games, and at that point in time. For those that are interested, if you've seen any of my ham tag stuff, that's half as much, twice as good. It's a top 5 list where I have Greg Schmidtkins and Judd Vance will be here on set. They're literally going to be over here in about 45 minutes. And we're going to do a live Q&A. The ham tag set series or the different sessions, those are my most viewed shows. And Judd and Greg are going to be on set. We're going to record one that I'll edit and put out called the top 5 games I played during the pestilence. That'll be recorded and edited and out in a couple weeks. But I thought it'd be fun to do a live Q&A because the ham taggers haven't been all together since I think like 2017, maybe it was 2019. But it'll be nice to have them at the house on set. So I'll be doing another live. We'll spool up at 12:45. So about an hour from now, if you guys want to see anything with ham tag. Again, that's all board games, not role-playing, although maybe a role-playing game makes it into my top 5 list. You're of the knowledge. I've definitely played this during the pestilence. So, let's see. What else? Anybody got any other final questions? Any other questions coming in? So, I plan on playing more OSR games as well. I do have Mouse Ritter. I've got Mothership, the Kickstarter version coming. I've got Black Hand, Maze Rats. Maze Rats looks really cool. Karen I picked up, so I really want to play these OSRs. I'm loving more into the odd. Death in Space, another free league workshop game with a nice book, and I've got a cool idea for it'll be a spaceship, a ship that's got at least a captain that's a foodie, and food's hard to find and get, and that's his claim to fame. So it'll be trying to find ingredients trying to serve fancy dancy those that are in the power, whether they're criminal or elite or whatever. And then maybe a crew that does a little side thievery on the side. Side thievery on the side. We'll see. But I've had this Death in Space idea I want to play. And it's got some very out there kind of setting that I like. So I'd love to get into that as well. Maze Rats is fun, but a brutal game. I'm loving brutal games. So the idea that the characters aren't going to be here for too long. I mean, Vike may not make it. Into the Odd was cool because you roll up 3 stats, strength, dexterity, and wisdom, I think. And then you roll on a kit that you're going to get, and that kit's supposed to impart like what your character is. So Chris McDowell talks about like he had somebody that had, he was doing it at a con, and they got manacles and like a dagger or something. And when he was running it repeatedly at the con, one person thought that meant they were bounty hunter and they were stealthy, and that they were capturing people that were wanted for crimes. Yet he runs it again, and a person comes up with the fact that they're an escape slave, and they carry these manacles as a reminder, and that they're very strong and all. So it was real cool that the kit sends you down what you are. And my kit that I got was a big old axe, like a woodsman's axe, and a bottle of rum. And I thought, geez, it sounds like a Viking weapon. I thought, oh, he wants to be a Viking. He's seen the whole opera where it's not over until the fat lady sings with the horns and the helmet. He thinks that's what a Viking is. And then I thought, okay, this is Into the Odd. I'm going to run with that. He wants to be a Viking. So that's how that whole idea came around. Made it kind of weird and odd, but that's what I did. So, all right, I'm going to wrap it up. I'll wait 1 minute if anybody has any other questions pressing that they need to get in, but I think we've covered everything. I'm going to get tidied up and get ready for the guys to come over and do yet another live, and then see if my voice is holding up. I will then and then we're going to record a top 5 games played during the pestilence. So, all right, it's Bonding with Board Games and RPGs. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Never fear. Thank you for the wonderful, wonderful questions. And Nuno Lucas as well, and anyone else I've forgotten or didn't see as I was doing 3 different things here. So thank you guys. Twilight 2000, we will be back for season 2, but look for that maybe 3-4 months down the road. I'm going to try some different things, take a little break, keep things fresh. And that's it. See you guys. Bye.